Hi everyone, I'm Natalie from the All Homesteading Knitting podcast. Today I'm joined by Rochelle from the Queen's Yarn Boutique. Rochelle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Rochelle, and so I enjoy knitting, crocheting, just fiber arts in general. I dye yarn, and I make YouTube videos.
Yeah, which I will link down below. I will start off with some this or that questions for Rochelle. Yeah, and we'll just have a nice chat with her today. So grab your knitting and yes, so shall we go straight into the this or that questions?
Yeah,
So this or that, trends or classic knits?
classic knits. Trends come and go, but classic knits, they'll always be here.
So these trends, slay or nay? So bandana cowls.
They slay. I love a bandana cowl. Yeah.
Okay, slay or nay, chunky knits.
Okay, I'm gonna say that chunky knits slay. The only thing I would say is I'm not a big fan of the chunky knits done with the unspun yarn, only
Okay.
because they don't look that great after they've been worn.
Right.
I think they look great in the moment, but that yarn is meant to be spun, so
Mm,
that's the only thing I would say. But yeah, slay to
yeah.
chunky knits.
Slay or nay, granny squares.
Okay, I'm gonna say slay because you can do so many things with granny squares. Because I am a very experienced crocheter, the novelty of granny squares just don't appeal to me right now because I've made them so like I've
Yeah.
been doing it for so long. So
Yeah.
but I do find it interesting though with like TikTok and a lot of the newer crocheters or knitters that are learning how to crochet. Granny squares is everything right
Everywhere.
now. It is
Everywhere.
everything. But for me, I'm kind of like, Granny squares has been there my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, I don't get the hype, but I'm gonna say slay.
Purling or slipping a stitch? But
I love purling. I know.
do you love purling?
I'm in the minority, but I love purling. I'm an English flicker, so
Yeah. Okay.
my hands don't really change position whether I'm knitting or purling.
Sometimes in your videos you have footage of you knitting and
Right.
you seem to knit quite quickly.
Yeah,
So maybe that's the flicking.
yeah, it is because you're really not changing your hand position. It's
Mm.
because you're not like having to do that extra step of throwing.
Yeah, the extra motion. Yeah.
Right, and
It's a lot. It seems like it's a lot ergonomic because I can, when I'm knitting, I'm thinking about like my movements and I'm like, maybe this isn't the best way to knit, but
I deal with issues in my fingers and my hands. So for me, I have to find like the most comfortable way to knit and
Okay.
crochet. Yeah.
Gift knitting, yay or nay?
I'm gonna say yay because I do enjoy making gifts for people. The only thing is I don't want them to know that I'm making something for them because I don't like
Okay.
that pressure. So nay to the stress part.
Yeah, it is stressful as well because there is that element of will it fit one, especially if you're doing it sort of low key in secret as a surprise gift. You've got the stress of will it fit, will they like it, what materials do I use? Gift knitting or knitting for yourself?
Knitting for myself. I know I just totally contradicted myself.
No, not at all. I think the two they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, I do enjoy knitting for myself. Like my aim is to be able to wear something that I have made, whether it be knitted or crochet, every day. Every day I go out, I want to have something that I've made. So yeah, I choose myself.
So we should. Right. Option. You make a mistake 5 rows back. Do you rip back, fix it later, or live with the mistake?
I gotta rip back. In terms of fixing a mistake, it depends on how big the mistake is and how far back it is.
5 rows. So in this case, it's 5 rows back.
I'm gonna rip it out. Yeah.
You're
I'm
a
gonna
better
rip it
person
out.
than me.
What's that?
I said you're a better person than me.
I can't live with it. I just can't. It's gotta, yeah.
It's got to go.
Yeah. Now, 15 rows back, I'm probably gonna be like, I never saw it.
Yeah.
But 5 rows back, yeah, we're ripping that out.
Yeah. Okay. Let's qualify this because I think 5 rows back on the body of a sweater, or like 5 rows back on a sleeve, significantly different.
True. Well, I think the thing is, like, I have never knit color work or anything like that before. So I think if I had knitted color work, my answer would be different. Like, we're gonna leave it and pretend I never saw
Oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah,
My
because
answer would be converse.
then it's like, well, if you make a mistake, it's so noticeable. I don't know. I'm still gonna say I'm gonna rip it out regardless.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to
Yeah.
rip it out.
Yeah. That is the proper answer. I think that is like the sort of, that's what you should do. That's what we all should do. Lace work, for me, lace work, 5 rows. I'm not touching that.
So here's my thing. I'm a huge fan of lifelines. And
Okay, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
yeah, and I use a lot of lifelines in my work. So if I'm working on something and maybe it's like stockinette and then it turns into a lace portion, I'm gonna put a lifeline in that last row of stockinette.
So I'm going to ask your advice about this, because I tried knitting with lifelines, and for some reason the lifeline just wouldn't stay, and so it ended up being a lot more hassle than it was worth. Even though I know it's prudent to use lifelines, as you say, right? Because you can just rip back with impunity, sort of thing. But is there a knack? Is there something that I should be looking for the yarn, when, like, the kind of yarn that I use when I opt for a particular lifeline?
I don't really think it's like the type of yarn. So my secret is I tie a knot on both ends of my lifeline.
Okay, so it doesn't slip.
So it doesn't slip off. Yeah.
Okay.
And usually, like, my lifeline is like usually twice the size of my circumference or whatever.
Yeah.
But, usually what I'll do is I'll tie a knot at the end, and then sometimes I'll put like a little stitch marker where the knot is, and that way it's not gonna,
Okay,
slip out.
that's smart.
Yeah.
So I think what I have been doing, I think my error was that the scrap yarn that I used for my lifeline was just too short. Yeah, and maybe would you say that using like quite thick scrap yarn is a good idea, like for lifelines, or like thicker than the yarn that you're actually using, or does it matter?
I use usually, like, if it's a DK, I use a DK. But the thing is, I don't use like slipper yarn, so you wouldn't want to use like a cashmere lifeline or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I've learned a few things here. Okay, good. Right, neon or jewel tones? Because I know you're a jewel tone kind of girl, but I'm thinking, do you like any neons as well? So neon or jewel tones?
Well, I'm gonna say jewel tones.
Jewel tones or neutrals?
Jewel tones.
Okay, so that's it for my this or that question. But before we go into like the discussion questions, I see that you are knitting and wearing some knitwear. So do you want to tell us what you're knitting on and what you're wearing? Or who are you wearing today, Rochelle?
Yeah. Looking at my shirt, I'm like, I should have did a stretch your bind off. But anyway. Now that I'm looking like in the camera, I'm like, well. So I am wearing the Anchor summer shirt, which is designed by Petite Knit, and the yarn that I'm using is Drops Merino DK, and I can't remember the color, but anyway, yeah. So that's what I'm using.
Color on you.
Thank you. So yeah, that's what I'm wearing. So today, because I just finished a knitting project. I haven't even showed this on the channel yet, but I have finished
an exclusive.
I mean, it's dark, but anyway, I have finished my toaster tee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's
so
in
many
black.
people are knitting that right now.
Yeah, because I wanted just like a regular black t-shirt. I wear a lot of black, so yeah, this is my toaster tee, and I did a
neckline. What's the neckline like?
Yeah, so what's interesting about the neckline is the pattern calls for a 1x1. I accidentally did a 2x2, and I didn't even realize it. So I posted it to Instagram, and is it Rebecca? I believe her name is, who's the designer. She's like, "Oh, I love your chunky neckline," and I was like, "What? Is my neckline really chunky?" So then I went back and I looked, and I was like, I accidentally did a 2x2. And then when I looked at it, I was like, I like the 2x2 ribbing.
Yeah. So when you say Rebecca, you're talking about like Creabea. She actually noticed that you used the 2x2.
You did.
Looking at it with a magnifying glass.
Can you imagine? And I am always so impressed by designers, because I have a friend, Vanessa Smith. She does designs, and I was doing a test knit for her, and she looked at my work and she goes, "Your slip knits are different." And I was like, "How did you know?" I just think designers, they're so
Yeah.
smart when it comes to their designs. They know when something is like a little off. So I'm actually, because I have finished my latest knit project, I'm crocheting actually.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so I'm crocheting a t-shirt. Yeah. So yeah, I'm crocheting a
Ah, okay.
t-shirt.
Is that a freestyle t-shirt, or are you following a pattern?
Yeah, I'm following a pattern. It's the No Sew Comfort Tee by Ashley Rivas. She
Okay.
is Tiny Couch Crochet.
So are you ready for the long form questions?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. So what is your knitting origin story?
Well, when it comes to knitting, I'm going to say YouTube University, class of 2016, because I've been crocheting since I was a child, but I taught myself how to knit through YouTube. I made a cowl, and
Mhm.
it was like knit and purl. It was really, really cool. Tin can knits. Is it tin can knits?
Okay.
That sounds about right. But anyway, yeah, I do believe that was one of my first knitting patterns.
So did you learn like the stitches first and then pattern reading, or did because you followed a pattern for your very first knitting project?
Yes, but what I did, I think it was like Expression Fiber Arts back then. She had a ton of knitting tutorials, and so I watched a few of her videos on like how to knit, how to purl. So it
Okay.
wasn't like I went straight into a pattern.
So tell me about your boutique. So are you still dyeing yarn? Is that something that you would like to continue at all?
The last 2 years, like I've taken a hiatus from dyeing yarn because the last 2 years have just been so challenging in terms of health problems, health issues, and so just completely overwhelming. And so I decided to take a little hiatus from dyeing yarn, but
Yeah.
I do want to get back into it, whether it be this year or the beginning of next year. I'm ready. I'm back at that point where I am ready to start dyeing yarn again. Between the health issues, and then I was also working like a regular job, and then I was trying to dye yarn, and it was just so overwhelming. And so I
Mm.
was like, one has to go for a little bit. So I let the yarn dyeing go for a moment, and then I lost my job. And I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And so, but now I have the time, to get back to dyeing yarn. And but in terms of like my store, it's called Queen's Yarn Boutique, and it was named after my grandmother. Her name was Queen. And it's so funny because sometimes people will leave me messages and they're like, "Hi, Queen," and I respond to it.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I'm not Queen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that it's just the term of endearment as well. You can take it as.
Yes, Queen.
This business was named after my grandmother. Her name was Queen Esther. I'm a huge Prince fan, so all of my bases are named after Prince. We'll be back to Don Yarn very soon.
Hopefully you'll get to check it out as well. So make sure that you keep us updated on your channel about your yarn business. So why did you decide to start a knitting channel? How long have you been doing it? And what challenges have you faced along the way?
Okay, so I have been on YouTube since August of 2015. So we're coming up on 10 years, which is
Yeah,
wild.
you are a veteran.
I try. So my channel started off as a crochet channel, and also I did loom knitting. So those were my big things. And then I learned how to dye yarn, and I learned how to knit. And so then my channel kind of started including those things as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, so my channel has definitely evolved over time. And I'm one that I like to try new things. I don't like to stay in a bubble of, okay, this is the traditional format. This is what we do. I
Yeah.
like to change it up. And I've gotten more comfortable over the years. So I feel like I'm more myself and a little vulnerable at times. So yeah, that's kind of my channel. Why I started it? It's been so long ago, I barely remember why I started it. I think I just wanted to show my stuff. I used, like, back then, I watched a ton of YouTube
Yeah.
crochet, ton of stuff. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I can share my stuff too.
What challenges have you faced along the way?
So my challenges have had to do a lot with my own self doubt and self consciousness and comparison.
Mm.
Um, One of the worst things you can do is compare yourself to others, and it's kind of like my challenge is not what other people are doing, but um, I've been on YouTube for 9+ years now, and I'm like, well, why don't I have more subscribers? Why don't I have more views? Why, this person just started and they've already got like 20,000 subscribers, and what I have come to realize is I am grateful for the people that view my channel.
Yeah.
I, I can't worry about what someone else is doing. And I'm very proud when other people really hit it big, because we are in kind of a niche. And so it brings more awareness to knitting and crochet. So
Yeah.
I love to see channels do really well. But for me, I've learned to focus on the people that watch my channel, and just I'm so appreciative, whether it's 200 views or whether it's 1,000 views. Like, I'm so appreciative. I would say the second thing is just being self-conscious,
Mm.
because um I got a little meat on my bones, and so I think some of my videos, I would just be feeling so conscious, and I would joke and say that I would position the camera like clavicle and up. I didn't I didn't want any I just didn't want to show like my body. And I've never been like a self-conscious person.
Mm.
But just looking at my videos, it was something that I noticed. And I've gotten messages over time where people are like, "Oh, I love to see somebody my size showing their projects." And
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? This is more than me. And so it got to the
Yeah.
where I kind of lowered my camera a little bit, because I do have hips. So I kind of lowered my camera a little bit. And also I started like actually walking around in my clothes and like actually showing off the things that I made instead of just like holding it up, so that people can see how it looks on the body.
Mm.
And I've gotten a really positive response from that. And, people are like, okay, now I know what that size looks like on a person.
It's so important.
Yes.
So important.
Worry about the silliest things like, oh, my hair doesn't look right today. It's just like the silliest things. And I had to get over that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing, isn't it? Like putting yourself in front of um in front of a camera, and when you're sitting and watching yourself while you're editing your video, or you're watching a video back and you're like, oh my god, I look like this, or it's that focus on yourself. But then at the end of the day, once you hit submit on YouTube, it's out of your hands. But those insecurities that everyone has, other people need to see that to like you said, it's bigger than ourselves. Like other people really need to see. Maybe somebody sees that they have like the same kind of body shape to me, and they were thinking of knitting a pattern, and then they have an idea of what it could look like. Because have you noticed that there is a big thing on size inclusivity
Mhm.
and things, but when you actually see the sample photos for the pattern, where are those shapes and sizes? It's still quite limited on what you actually see modeling the samples.
That is so true, because I'm looking at the sample sometimes and I'm like, where are the big bust girls at? Like, what is
Yeah.
going on,
Yeah.
And even like, I try not to get too emotionally invested in things. And one thing about my channel is I try to keep it positive.
Yeah.
I don't talk about a lot of controversy and things like that, because I people come to my channel, we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
Um, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things that I don't like. Just like there's a super popular top going on around right now. I won't say the name, but when I saw it on Instagram, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to wear this. I even shared it. Like, I cannot wait to
Yeah.
wear this. And I was like, I'm gonna go buy this tank top as soon as it comes out. Because a lot of times like they'll kind of tease new patterns and then you have to wait like a week for it to come out. So I'm waiting. I'm ready to buy this. The day comes, the designer posts, I make a beeline to Ravelry to, I don't care what the pattern costs, I'm buying this pattern. I get there, I'm looking, and it goes up to a 50-inch bust circumference
Okay.
with like 4 to 6 inches of positive ease. So I'm already at a 50-inch bust. So if I want 4 to 6 inches of positive ease, then the pattern needs to go up to 54 or 56.
Yeah.
So I can't make this. Now I could probably modify, but it's not my job to do the math.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're paying for the privilege to do so.
Exactly. So I have to pay for the pattern and then regrade it myself. And I try not to let stuff bother me, but that one really bothered me because I had waited since the first time the thing went out and tested it. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to make this. And then to be that excited and then the pattern won't even fit me.
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
Yeah. So on social media, like let's say Instagram, do you follow designers so that do you have designers that you follow so that when they're ready to drop, you have it, like what's coming out and things like that? Because I this world or that aspect of knitting, I'm not aware of. I don't really use Instagram for like knitting or like my content or anything like that. I keep it locked down, and it's still like my family and real friends on my Instagram.
That's probably really smart. So yes, so there are designers that I feel like they understand my aesthetic, because to me, I'm not, and this is because I'm not as experienced of a knitter, but I'm really not one to wear like a color work yoke, like the beautiful sweater you have on. I personally don't know if I could pull that off. I'm not really big into cables. And so when it comes to me, I like really classic pieces that are knit purl. It's very classic, very simple. Kind of like even like this top with the 1x1 ribbing, like this is as crazy as I'm gonna get.
There's some great on you. It looks great. I like because I'm actually still knitting it for my husband.
Yeah.
But I really did not enjoy, and I don't mind ribbing at all. I did not enjoy doing that yoke. Like it was, and those two rounds of stockinette in between, I used to look forward to those.
Okay. Here's the thing about this. So I did the 1x1 and it nearly killed me. I was so tired that after I finished the 1x1, I put this in timeout.
Yeah,
I was tired and
it is. I don't know, and it's not even that much. And I don't have any beef with purling. I don't have any beef with ribbing, but it's exhausting.
But you know what? This is one of my favorite pieces.
Okay, so it's worth it.
It's so worth it. And every time I think about knitting another one, I think about the 1x1 ribbing, and I'm like, what? No. I even thought about like maybe I could buy the yarn and send it to one of my knitting friends and they at least do the yoke for me.
Yeah.
I can't. The thing is, I don't expect everything to fit me. But I was so excited for this particular and it was a letdown. It was a huge letdown. And I think that's why it hurt so much. And I shouldn't assume things, but just like in 2024, I just kind of assumed that all designers were going up to a certain size. And maybe that was an error on my part for even assuming that.
Yeah, but it's still icky. But what I have seen, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it's more inclusive designers, like social media posts by a designer, and they're showing like the marketing for a new design or whatever. Usually in the blurb they say something like "will go up to," but maybe those are when they've got more, they're showing that they are, inclusive, and they're showing that their designs will go up to a larger range,
Yeah,
perhaps.
let me go and read the Ravelry page. So I went and I looked under the comments, and there was a person that had wrote to the designer, "Hey, do you think you're going to expand the sizes?" And the designer's response were, "Not at the moment. I don't have time for it right now, but perhaps next year I will be able to do it."
Okay.
And I was like, okay, so the I don't really know how to phrase it, but I was like, okay, so people my size, we have to wait.
Mm,
Okay, that's fine.
yeah.
That's
No
and
time for that.
yeah, hey, no problem. I might not be there when that pattern comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'm not upset with anybody, but it was a lesson learned for me to not set my expectations so high.
But it means that it will affect, oh, I can't get excited for the I guess that's a privilege of being a certain size, and if you're a small or a medium, for example, you don't have to say, oh, I don't know if I can get excited for this, because I don't know if,
Yeah,
and then I think that element of um size exclusivity is what people don't get, like people who are of like standard sizing don't get that. Okay, yeah, everyone should be entitled to making what they want.
that there's patterns where I can't wear it. It kind of brings like this body consciousness back out, where
Yeah,
you're like, oh man, I used to be so small and now I'm not anymore. And that is not the default. That is not the fault of any designer.
yeah,
That's a self-conscious me thing. But I do think about that sometimes. And for people that don't fit the regular sizes, like, don't get discouraged, because there's also the other side of it. What about the people that don't even fit like the smaller sizes? What
yeah,
about the people that have like extra smalls? A lot of times patterns don't even start there. They just start at small.
yeah.
Talk about size inclusiveness. You got to consider both ends of
All
the
of the
spectrum.
spectrum. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so does yarn husband knit or craft, and what hobbies do you both share?
Well, okay. So I taught the yarn husband how to loom knit a few years
Okay.
ago, and he knit a scarf and a hat for me. I have tried to attempt to like teach him how to crochet or knit, but I'm not the best teacher. So um, I
Does
would
he
love.
he has an interest in learning it though?
Oh yeah, he
Oh,
is the type of yarn husband. Like, we'll watch yarn videos together. Like,
okay.
I'll go on YouTube, load up a queue of knitting and crochet videos, and he will sit right there on the couch with me and just watch them. Yeah, he can loom knit, so I feel like he
Yeah,
can.
that's a start. That's a really good start. I can't loom knit. So,
He goes with me to a lot of my fiber festivals when I was doing that, and he's all about like yarn weights and
hmm.
doing colors, and he loves naming my colors because I dye the yarn, but naming the
Okay.
colorways, like I'm terrible.
So he's
And
got that creative mind to give you the names for the colorways.
oh
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, he'll look at something, he's like, you should name it this, and I'm like, I should name it that. And that's what it becomes in terms of things we do together. So we enjoy riding our ATV in the mountains.
Oh yeah, I saw the
Yes,
footage of
yes,
that. That looked
yes.
like such a cool break.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Also, we will travel for food. We love that.
Okay.
We love the beach. We're only about maybe about 2 hours or so from the beach because we're on the coast, so we can get down there in no time. I love dragging him to historical houses, and so
Okay.
we'll go to those. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and happy belated anniversary. I did write that on your one of your videos when you. I think it was when you went away to do your RV stuff.
Yes, yeah.
How long did you say? It was like 11 years or something like that.
11. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah, this is the big 11, and but yeah,
11.
the big 11. But you know what? So during our 10th anniversary, he had broken his leg, and so we really didn't get to do anything,
Okay. Mm.
And so our 11 was like our big 10, And so
Yeah.
we were like, we're going all out. But we are doing so many things now. We're both healthier. I'm still, getting over my surgery, but we're both trying to get there. And so we've got a monster truck show coming up that we're going to go
Okay.
to. That's going to be a lot of fun because we both love big trucks, big pickup
Okay.
trucks.
Do you drive a big truck?
Yeah.
Silly question.
I know. I'm so country.
Is that your everyday vehicle then?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I learned how to drive on a pickup truck.
Oh,
And
really? Okay.
yeah, my daddy taught me how to drive on a pickup truck. And I've had cars, but I prefer driving a truck.
You're very southern, so yeah, big trucks and barbecues, but the thing is, American roads, because I don't know if you ever visited the UK?
No.
No,
What?
because you would laugh at our roads. Like, if you're used to big trucks, our roads are tiny, just not practical. You need like a small car, not just obviously because I live in the countryside as well, and
Mhm.
4x4s and off-road vehicles are useful for the
Mhm.
country roads. I've seen your freeways and they're huge, but ours are, yeah.
Oh my gosh. The smallest car I've ever been in, like my daddy used to work for a company and they drove like the Volkswagen Beetles, the little
Okay. Oh, I love Beatles.
yeah. And I was looking around in that car and I was like, where's the rest of it? It I was like, people drive these little cars?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to see my car.
I was like, where's the rest of this car? Like, I need at least a quad cab. I need a 5-foot bed with a cover. I'm learning French. I take French lessons. I love learning about other cultures. And even my French tutor talks about how, like, the roads are so small and there's a lot of walking that's going on. But, like, when you live
Yeah,
out here, you know, you need
yeah,
something
it's
pretty big.
completely different. Do you have any craft skills you're not so good at that you would like to improve?
Sewing and gardening. I can sew, but I would like to get a lot better.
Yeah.
And in terms of gardening, I can grow things, but I don't know. I could be a lot better. I know that you're an excellent gardener. So,
I grew up. My father was used to grow vegetables, so kind of grew up in the culture of growing food. So that comes easy for me. But with regards to sewing, do you have a sewing machine? So when you're talking about sewing, are you talking about hand sewing or machine sewing?
machine sewing. I
Okay.
have a sewing machine and I might hem a pair of pants every now and then, but like I want to make dresses and stuff. And it's been
Okay.
a long time. Like I used to make dresses, I used to quilt as well, and I've gotten
Mm,
away from it. And so, it's kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it. And so,
yeah. I just want to
um,
explain what I'm wearing right now, right? Because in the UK, I think that this is probably like the worst summer that we have had in a long time. And I know that people say this every year, but it really has been. I am wearing like this is a proper wool, and with color work, you've got the floats on the inside, and I obviously it's not got full sleeves, so I'm perfectly comfortable. And we are in July.
that's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did go out. I won't wear a coat as well, but July and I'm wearing a woolly sweater.
Oh
That's
my
pretty
gosh.
terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. Not here.
Yeah, what's the temperature like where you are, and how are you faring with a knitted? Even though it's a t-shirt, how are you faring in your summers with like merino um,
Yeah,
knitted sweater?
so this week has actually been cooler. We're only
Okay,
at 88 degrees today, which is,
I don't know what that is in Celsius.
I'm,
Between Celsius and Fahrenheit.
I'm really not sure. Okay, let me look up Fahrenheit. So today is 88, so that's 31 degrees Celsius.
Oh, right, yeah, that
Yeah,
is really hot.
but no, today's cool. Today is a cool day
Oh,
because
yeah,
you
that
know
would be boiling in the UK.
yeah. So here we have a lot of humidity. Like I said, I'm on the coast, a lot of humidity. And, you have the regular weather and then you have the heat index. And so
Hmm.
our heat index, the highest we got last year was 115. So that would be 46 degrees Celsius. Yes.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get those kinds of temperatures here. And I used to live in Spain, and not even in Spain was the hottest, like the hottest days in August would be like around 32, 33.
But the way we survive here in the South is like every room has a ceiling fan in it, and we've got air conditioning, and yeah, yeah. Because even now, the only reason I'm able to wear this is because I've got a ceiling fan above me,
Uh, okay.
and the air condition is on. But
Even in like Spain and other Mediterranean countries, houses don't really have air conditioning. I think aircon is more for like Americans and like people who live in Saudi Arabia and places like that, because we're still quite old school. Like, we open the window.
love that you say aircon.
Oh yeah, do you not say that?
No, we say AC. It's just the
Oh,
AC.
oh,
To me,
do you say it the full? Do you ever say like air conditioning or just AC?
just the
Oh.
AC. To me, aircon sounds like a really fancy airplane, like Aircon Airlines or something. Like, yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. Like I'm flying on Aircon.
Like Con Air, you know
It, exactly, exactly. And so I don't know. I think it's so cool. Aircon, like that would be like
I
a
never thought
really
about that
good.
before. Aircon, Con Air.
Yeah, that would be a really good action movie. Like Tom Cruise or somebody like Aircon. Oh, that would be
Yeah, but
awesome.
that wouldn't happen because Nick Cage has already done it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
With John, yeah, have you seen the movie? It's like one of my favorite movies. It's so good.
I don't know if I've seen that. I've watched a lot of Nicolas Cage movies. I'm not sure if
Oh, I
I've
love Nick Cage. Yeah, you have to watch that. Please, please
yes.
tell me that you will watch Con Air because it's a great movie.
What do you think I'm gonna do? I'm gonna save the fucking day.
I've heard of the movie, but yeah, so Aircon, that's
Yeah, so it's been done. It's been so you thought you had like an idea for a movie, but it's already been done, and it's a great movie. So please watch that.
okay.
You tend to find shortening words for things that you use often. So in the UK, we're not using any AC, so it's it's no
Right.
reason to shorten it. We don't talk
I
about
get
it.
it.
We
Yeah.
don't use it. Do you do test knits? And if you do, what is your motivation?
Yes, I love doing test knits. Motivation. Well, I learn a lot of new techniques, and
Okay.
I really like that. Yeah, that's probably the big thing. I love the challenge. The deadlines don't really bother me. Well, I'm picky with who I test knit for because usually I'm making the larger size. Usually, like, I look for ones with like a reasonable deadline. But I usually test knit for the same designers just because I like
Okay.
the way they communicate and things like that. But I,
Yeah.
I love test knitting. And also, you get a first look at the pattern, which I really like.
Okay.
And of course the pattern is like it's usually really rough, so it's you're getting a rough pattern, but just be able to help the designer figure it out and stuff like that. Like for example, I'm doing a test knit right now where I had to do bust starts
Okay.
Because the pattern didn't allow enough for me. And the designer was like, okay, well, just stop what you're doing. I'm going to go and readjust the bust starts, because she was like, I've never had anyone in my size to do the bust start. So it was new to her. She never had to do bust starts for somebody of my size. And so that was a learning experience for her. She went
Mm.
back, made some revisions. And so I like that. I like that I was able to help her to make the pattern even better for people of my size.
Okay, that's an interesting point. I've never test knitted. I'm interested in the processes. Your motivation seems so wholesome that you want the opportunity to help the designer, because at the end of the day, you're doing an important favor, as it were, because for one, I think if people are going to um, grade inclusive sizes, they
Mm-hmm.
need people to test knit. And a lot of I've seen bought patterns that I've had, and designers say, I haven't included this extra size because, or this particular size because I didn't have the people to test knit. I think it's a little bit of a cop out, but they do say things like, if you don't see your size here, please contact me, and you will get the pattern for free as the test knit kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is fair enough. But
There are people of all shapes and sizes everywhere,
yeah,
everywhere. Social media is a fantastic place, and like for example, the test knit that I'm doing right now. So she put it out on Instagram that she was having a hard time finding sizes or finding testers 50-inch bust and above.
mm,
And because she had filled the smaller sizes, but for whatever reason, she was just having a really difficult time finding somebody to test it for. And I actually hadn't planned on testing the pattern, but when she put that call out on Instagram, I was like, I'll do it. Like I said, social media is a wonderful thing. And I feel like if you put it out there and ask for what you need,
mm.
I feel like you'll find somebody.
I don't know any other profession that has people do, in effect, it is labor. I kind of see it as labor, for free. You're helping somebody earn a profit. I can choose to do it or not. But I have a question for you, because I've seen on social media a lot of people have gripes with test knits, particular test knits that they've joined, or issues with designers not communicating and things like that. There is a lot of. I'm sure you've seen the conversation
Oh,
surrounding test knits.
yeah. Mhm.
But it's interesting to know that, like, people who have a positive experience and that are happy to do it, because there are lots of people who are happy
Yeah.
to do it. But do you ever think that um that test knits should be paid?
I think I'll first of all preface it by saying that there's a big difference between test knitters and sample knitters, and I
Okay,
think that
yeah,
sample knitters definitely should be paid because they don't even get to keep the project.
yeah,
They have to make it and then send it back. They're not really left with much.
yeah,
And so definitely sample knitters need to receive some sort of monetary compensation. Test knitting. Okay, here's the thing. I feel like test knitting has gotten a little misconstrued over time because to me, the point of test knitting is to provide the designer with feedback on how things can be improved, look for mistakes, things like that. But what's happening, what I've noticed, is that it's changed from just test knitting to now free marketing.
yes. That's what I
And
was just about to ask about,
yes,
actually.
yes. And for the people that I test knit for, the most they require is a Ravelry page. That's it. They just want you to create a Ravelry page. That way when the pattern is released, people can go and look at project samples. And
Right.
whether your face is showing or not doesn't matter, but they do want a picture of the project on,
Okay, on the
um,
body.
on the body,
On,
or
yeah.
even just like on a mannequin or on a
Okay.
hanger. They
Yeah.
just want a picture. That way, people, when the pattern release, you'll see it in different colors. You'll see it in different body
Okay.
shapes.
Yeah.
You'll see
Because
it in different,
I really do use those pictures to
yeah,
determine whether I'm going to buy a pattern or not. I think they're
exactly,
quite important.
exactly. And sometimes the test knitters pictures will sell the product quicker than the designer's pictures because
Okay.
you're showing them on different bodies, and people can like,
That's okay. That's
you
true.
know,
Yeah.
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 So in terms of that, I've never gotten compensation for test knitting, and I've never expected it.
Mm.
Because the designers that I work for, like I said, they do is they'll send you a Google feedback form. You kind of write your feedback on there, what you like, what you didn't like, what you would change. You send that off, and they just want you to do a Ravelry page, just kind
Mm.
of putting like your yardage, your meterage, the yarn that you use, the weight that you use, how much you use, and that's it. That's all they require. Fine with,
Yeah.
and most of the time, like, you will get either that pattern for free, or you'll get another pattern for free.
Okay.
Because a lot of times with test knitting, some patterns are so well written after the tech editor has written it or has checked it, that you feel like for the most part you've got the finished project. You can just
Mm.
kind of hand write the changes. You don't really need the final copy.
The
You
process.
can kind of,
Yeah. The
yeah.
process of the
And
test knit.
yeah, but what I have heard from other test knitters is that designers are requiring a whole lot more. They want you to do a bunch of pictures. They want you to post a certain amount of pictures on Instagram. They want you to do an Instagram story. They want you to do a reel. They want you to do a
Wow.
TikTok. And it has gone beyond test knitting. It is now free advertisement. It is
Yeah.
free marketing.
Marketing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some people I've heard, like, you must show your face. You must,
Jesus.
do different angles, stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, as a test knitter, it is my job to provide feedback on the
Mm.
pattern. I've done that,
Yeah.
And for me, like, if I do a reel or a video or a picture, the designer has not required me to do that. I'm just doing that because I want to show it off, you know. But I have heard of some pretty crazy demands from some designers, and I'm not saying that it's wrong necessarily, especially like if the test knitter kind of knew this ahead of time.
Yeah.
But I don't know the right or wrong answer.
Mm. And user generated content, because even the, like you say, when you said about a lot of the test knitters, a lot of the designers require test knitters to have a Ravelry page to post the photographs, because a lot of the time the test knitters items are what gets the sales, right? Because I've done it. I remember I've done it quite a few times. Going before I click buy now on Ravelry for a particular pattern, I've looked at the images and I've selected a particular image because
Hmm.
that person was like near my size, and I'm like, oh, I like the way, I like the length that she's gone for, and okay, I'm going to buy this pattern.
Hmm.
So in a way, that is marketing, and it's user generated content as well, which if you do user generated content, you are compensated for it. So it's a shame that, and I know that patterns are priced cheaply, let's say not cheaply, let's say affordably, in general. I think patterns are priced fairly, um, but it is a shame that what we do, the industry, we value it so little, in that we have a limited price that we would like to pay for a pattern, and that has a knock-on effect, meaning that test knitters are giving their time for free in a way. Yes, they get a pattern and things like that, and we can choose. It's not work for us, but it is a shame because it has a knock-on effect for everybody else. So
Yeah, because most of the time you do have to buy your own yarn, and
yeah.
the designer can get it sponsored or something like that. Unfortunately, I think it's something that we've come to accept in this industry. But to me, this it alludes to a bigger problem. As content creators, a lot of times when bigger companies want to work with us, they'll offer free product, but
Yeah.
not compensation. But in other industries like
Yeah.
makeup, gaming, finance,
Yeah.
whatever, like these
Can't
content
get away
creators,
with that.
oh no, no, no. Like you're gonna pay me X amount of dollars for each post. You're gonna pay me X amount of
Yeah.
dollars per minute my YouTube video is. It's accepted. Like it would be offensive to give free product in some industries, but in the knitting and yarn crochet community, it's I don't know. It's become the norm, and I don't know.
Yeah. Not
Yeah,
everything has to be monetized, but I mean, when you say it like that, when you compare with other industries, especially with the increasing demands on test knitters, and I've heard horror stories about people even needing to be a member of the Patreon or be a member of a subscription in order to be in with a chance of test knitting,
yeah.
which
It's like
is pay to
yeah,
play
yeah,
essentially.
exactly, exactly. I've never experienced that, but I have heard of it. You have to pay the membership. You got to buy the yarn. There's a lot that goes on with it. I don't have the answer to how we can fix it. And I think,
Mm,
I don't know, me just looking at both sides here, the most patterns that are size inclusive, they come in at a minimum of 9 sizes. So, and a lot of times test knitters will have at least 2 people per size because not everybody
right.
finishes. So you're looking at least at a minimum 18 test knitters. And then you have to pay each one of them.
Yeah.
So that can be tricky. But then, like, as a business, that's part of the expense. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to look at it. I think for me, I kind of see the side of designers because,
Yeah, I see it.
you know,
And also, if we were to pay test knitters, I guess, then the samples wouldn't be, sorry, not samples, the patterns wouldn't be as cheap as we are
yeah,
paying for them,
yeah,
Um, so I think it's not just a matter of pay your test knitters, it's a matter of the whole industry needs an overhaul or a shake up or. Next question. What did you think when you watched my representation in knitting video? What was your first impression?
Okay, so I actually have watched that video at least 3 times. That
Oh,
video,
thank
but
you.
it's so needed, I guess. So I actually wrote down some points. I did. I
Oh,
wrote them
okay.
down. Yes, because I want to make sure that I quote you correctly. So you said, one high profile betrayal should not represent the majority. And I actually appreciated that point because not only do all Black people not look alike, we also don't think alike. And I think that it's easy for us to get, I don't know, like pigeonholed into to
Mm,
one. And
a
we're not.
monolith.
Yeah, we're individuals. We think. And you know what? We're also human. We also make mistakes. Um, but we're all different. And I don't think we should be put into a box. And I know you mentioned something about like, you know, one bad apple, then the whole bunch is ruined.
Mm,
And not saying anybody's a bad apple or anything like that, but I think sometimes one really popular controversy is going on, and it involves a Black person,
yeah.
then it's like everybody is judged for being the same.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
have different opinions, we grew up differently, we've had different life experiences. So I think it's just important to not judge all Black people based on one. I think
Yeah.
my advice would be is if you want to know the opinion of a Black person, just ask. I grew up in the South. I I don't talk about racism a lot on my channel, but that don't mean that I don't understand it because I do. We had an experience. I was at a fiber festival, and typically at the fiber festivals, there's usually maybe like one or two Black vendors. And so I had my booth was outside, and then there was another vendor. She was actually inside a building, and people kept mixing us up all day. And I mind you, we look nothing alike. Yeah, we both. I would say we both have natural hair, but it was interesting because people would come to my booth and they would be like, "Oh yeah, I bought from you at the last festival up in Maryland. I've never vended in Maryland. I would love to go." And I'm like, I don't think that was me. Do you know the name of the person? No, 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 it was you. And I'm like, I don't think so. It could have been another person, or either like at that particular festival, one lady came up to me and she was like, "Oh yeah, I just love your colorways. Do you remember that certain colorway?" And she said the name, and I was like, I've never dyed that color. You sure? She's like, "Yeah. Don't you have a booth over there as well?" And I was like, "No, I've been here all weekend." And it was like there was only two Black people at the festival, and you're either one or you're the other.
Yeah.
And she didn't even take the time to get to know the name of the other vendor so she could tell me. But I ended up looking at the vendor list, and I was like, okay, that's who she was talking about. But I think as Black people, we handle racism in different ways. Me, I try to be more peaceful. I've seen anger, and I understand anger, and I understand why it's necessary at times. But for me, I grew up around that anger. And as even as a teenager, I decided as an adult, I was not going to react to things like that. Not to say, people do different things, but it's very triggering for me. And I think that's why I try to just be as peaceable and positive as possible. And that's not to say you don't have to stand up for yourself sometimes. I mean, you do. But I think as Black people, we respond to things based on how we grew up a lot of times around racism. And so I think for me, perhaps I handle it a little different than other Black makers. But just because I handle it differently doesn't mean that I'm not aware. I'm very aware. So I have to handle it in a different way.
You have to do what's best for you and your mental health and your experiences and stuff, because like you say, our experiences are different. I kind of just felt like I needed to make that video because I think, judging from the majority of the comments, I've got a lot of comments on that, and not all that. Some of them I had to just hide from the channel because I'm not entering into those kinds of conversations, because like I said in the video, if you don't really understand the aspect, the point that I'm making, the video probably isn't for you. It's more for people who are ready, their minds are ready to incorporate. And so my job there wasn't to try to persuade anybody. It was just for people, to give one opinion. But it seemed to resonate with a lot of people. So I thought it would be an opportunity to have this conversation with you, because, like you say, we're not a monolith. No one can speak for one race. So it's interesting to actually hear your point of view as well, and hear some of your experience. So thank you for that. Yeah. So we're nearing the end. A couple of questions left. So do you have any yarn subscriptions, and what's your favorite yarn to work with?
No yarn subscriptions. You mean like when you get the box each month?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I haven't done
any of those.
No, I mean I used to, but I haven't done that in several years. The company ended up going out of business, so I don't really have any of that. But my favorite yarn is superwash merino wool. I love it. I love it.
What is it about superwash? Do you like natural wool at all? Like non-superwash wool?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. This is non-superwash wool,
Ah, okay.
so I do like it. Like my skin is very sensitive to
Okay.
certain things, and so I do like non-superwash wool. It's just that it doesn't have to be soft, but you know how like with non-superwash, the fibers kind of grab. Yeah,
Yes, I know.
I can't do it. That would feel like a million ants crawling all over
Oh,
me. Like
really? Okay. Yeah.
I can't. So with this yarn, it is non-superwash, but it doesn't have that grabbiness to it.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I'll definitely work with both superwash and
Yeah, so
non-superwash, but
thank you for answering all of my questions. It's been great talking with you, responding to my collab call, and it's
yes,
been lovely to chat with you. So,
yes, it's amazing.
okay, bye.
Bye.